Mitengo iteteza taka patikoli. Mitengo ibwereta mvula patikoli. Mitengo itipata mpweya patikoli. Ichosanzo mpweya woiba.
Malawi's forest resources play an important role in the socio-economic development of the country. Forests provide goods and services such as catchment conservation, construction materials, wild foods, employment, industrial poles, fuel, grass for thatching houses, medicine and herbs. Forests also provide ecosystem services by supporting a great diversity of flora and fauna. They not only protect our soil from erosion, but they also keep the soil extremely permeable. An estimated 93% of the country's 13.1 million people rely on biomass as a source of energy. Malawians heavily depend on fuel wood for cooking and heating, as there are few alternatives and access to electricity is both limited geographically and economically. Mrs. Salome Singano from Traditional Authority Kwataine in Ncheu district in the central region of Malawi is one of the beneficiaries of forest resources. She is a member of the Village Natural Resource Management Committee, VNRMC, which manages the Gongolo Forest area. She is happy that she is participating in the management of the forest, which she says has benefited her. Through co-management of the forest, the committee has raised nearly 1 million kwacha and it has created the Community Savings and Investment Promotion Program, COMSIP. About 800 community members are benefiting from the community savings, with some people building houses, buying livestock and paying for school uniform and fees with money from the forest produce.
2011 ndambomanga manyumba ndakhoma nyumba imodzi ya malata ndatatafufuza azathu mudzi adona tupeza phindu lokwanira 2012 tidakwana anthu 30 tidakwana anthu 30 padapezekanso anthu atatu anthu 30 po ndamanga manyumba okwanira omalata komanso azibambo awiri anagula zifuyo zawo mukhangati ng'ombe ndi nkhumba. Kenaka 2013 takhala anthu 40 pa anthu 40 po panopo makomo mwathu sitikuvutika. Makomo mwathu muli chakudya chokwanira komanso ana fizi talipira. Panopo ndikunena pano ine Salome Singano ndi nyumba ziwiri za malata komanso ndatsekula glosale kuchokera mu bungwe la COMSIP.
Despite all the benefits accrued from the forests, the country's natural resources are under intense pressure from the human activities. The main interrelated problems facing the country are poverty and deforestation. Malawi has one of the highest deforestation rates in southern Africa, which stand at 2.8% per annum, and over 50% of the population is poor. The underlying causes of deforestation are population pressure, high incidences of poverty and food insecurity, and high dependence on fuel wood as a source of energy for cooking and heating. Community encroachment of forest reserves are causing a lot of damage to the forests, with forest fires, illegal cultivation, and overgrazing, adding to the already existing problems. Senior Traditional Authority Kachindamoto from Dedza district believes that local communities have contributed to the destruction of the forests. But she says this is the reason why she embraced the project, so that communities should have powers to protect their own resources.
Adziwe kuti nkhalangoyi siyofunika kuti tidziononga koma kuisamalira. Mmene timasamalira pakhomo pathu nkhalangonso tidzisamaliranso. Komanso nkhalango idzitetezedwa, oteteza wake ndi feno wake. Tingotero kuti chimene chikutisangalatsa kwambiri ndichoti pakali pano udindo wabwera kwa ife eno ake mafumu anthu akumudzi kuti tidziyang'anira nkhalangoyo kusiyana ndi mbuyomu kuti ayi boma ndi limene limayang'anira koma pano apereka zonse udindo wonse kwa ife anu ake ankhalango komanso chimene tingapemphe nchakuti amene anzathu ena nkhutukumve amene safuna kumvetsa akagwidwa tapempha anzathu amakhoti kuti adzitithandize fe wonso ali mbali yomweyo yabomayo yoti tithandizane fazi umatheka kuti titenga anthu aja amene akuononga kupita nawo kukhoti kuja awakhalangata awatsekera mawa akakachita bero wawo kuti akwatulutsa akangwatulutsa basi ndekuti akubwereranso kuti kunkhalango ndiye ndithu tikupempha kuti tigwirane manja khoti ife mafumu kuti anthu amenewo akapezeka asasiye yayi.
Director of Forestry is Mr. Raf Kabwaza. He explains some of the threats to the country's forests.
The biggest challenge which we are facing now is the unsustainable utilization of forest produce, deforestation, in other words. This is a big challenge in the sense that we are only able to extract from the forest reserves, but we are not able to put back much in terms of planting trees, planting forest produce, but more importantly, managing what we have planted. This is a big challenge. Another challenge is in managing the sustainable use of this produce. There are a lot of illegal activities taking place. You have seen charcoal making, you have seen people cutting wood unsustainably, and the policing that is quite a challenge. It's very expensive, but also we meet the various kind of hurdles against the people who are mismanaging this forest produce.
Forest degradation is having an impact on the economy and people's livelihoods. Degradation of natural resources has exacerbated poverty. Official statistics indicate that unsustainable natural resource use cost Malawi about $191 million United States dollars, or 5.3% of GDP in 2010. Forest degradation has increased climate variations experienced in the form of prolonged dry spells, droughts, floods, and temperature variability, which in turn have negatively affected the performance of sectors such as agriculture, natural resources, irrigation and water development, and energy. Droughts cause low food production, with women walking long distances in search of water and firewood. Power blackouts as a result of environmental degradation have had an impact on the economy, with companies losing millions of United States dollars. Poaching and encroachment have made Malawi lose its variable biodiversity. University of Malawi Associate Professor Eston Sambo, who is also chairperson of the Forestry Management Board, says the board has the mandate and that the mandate is to oversee and validate overall direction of the policy of the program and monitor and review the implementation of the project.
The project has got an objective and it has also got a purpose. The objective is to contribute to the reduction of poverty and the conservation of forests in Malawi. And this is in conformity with the Malawi MGD S2, which is the guiding policy document. And we are especially covered under priority number 9, which also deals with the forest cover in relation to climate change issues. One of the good successes is this very early implementation of the co-management arrangements. The co-management arrangements, as you are aware, are there in our guiding policy documents, but they have not been implemented for quite some time. And it's only somewhere around in the 2000s, 2006, or a little bit earlier and later, where the co-management blocks have been set aside. And this involves the cooperation with people. That is, a segment of a forest reserve, for example, is carved out, and then the people are actually empowered to make decisions on how they are going to manage that, but under the supervision of the Forestry Department.
To deal with forestry degradation, the Malawi government, through the Department of Forestry, began implementing a co-management program called Improved Forest Management for Sustainable Livelihoods, IFMSLP, with funding from the European Union. The overall objective of the program is to contribute to the reduction of poverty and the conservation of forests in Malawi. Various stakeholders are involved in the implementation of this program. The local communities, including chiefs, the police, the local government through district councils, are directly involved in the program implementation. Currently, the program is implemented in 12 out of 28 districts, covering 14 forest reserves, 2 community forest areas, and the surrounding customary land within a buffer zone of approximately 20 kilometers. Improved forest management has resulted into improved water supply, water quality, and year-round irrigation activities by farmers. It has also resulted into farmers venturing into fish farming, availability of firewood, and forest management agreements with communities having the rights to enter the forest areas. Co-management of forests has made firewood available for women, reducing time and distances covered to fetch for firewood. Local communities are also involved in beekeeping, which brings them income. The money realized from the forest management is kept in the bank for communities to use it when need arises. Improved Forest Management for Sustainable Livelihoods program is in its second and final phase of its implementation, as Alesta explains.
Co-management is a partnership between the Department of Forestry and local stakeholders over the shared management of state forest reserves. This includes the sharing of responsibilities as well as the sharing of benefits from the forest. These rights, roles and responsibilities and benefits are set out in a legal agreement between the Director of Forestry and local communities. A key element of this is the local licensing system. This is where the revenue from agreed activities as set out in the management plan is shared between the communities and the government. In terms of the community's domestic use of the forest, they retain 100% of the revenue, but where there is commercial activities, 60% of the revenue is retained by the communities, and communities are able to use this for their own development priorities. And we have examples where communities are using this money to construct bridges to their villages to improve access. They are repairing boreholes, they are feeding orphans, clothing orphans, and providing blankets to other vulnerable members of their communities. And we also have one community who is building a clinic to improve access to health services in their area. Now, as these areas are state forest reserves, 30% of the revenue is remitted to government, and that goes into the Forest Development and Management Fund. And this is a fund that supports forest conservation and management activities in the country. The remaining 10% goes to the Local Forest Management Board, which is a grouping of local stakeholders who help oversee the strategic management and monitoring of the forest reserve. What we're finding is that communities are able to manage areas of forest, to protect areas of forest, able to work in partnership with the Department of Forestry, and they are willing to invest their efforts in the sustainable management of forests where they see real and tangible benefits.
Tango Tomeyo is the impressed administrator, and she explains the community's involvement in the program, the formation of communities committees, and how these committees are managed.
The program has used a lot of capacity building as a way of making sure that communities are taking part in the program activities. We've had the project since it began in phase 1 has trained communities in on several topics, including nursery management, leadership, group dynamics, some forest management, technical issues, and generally on policy and act, on everything that has to be known at their level to do with forest management. So I think on that, capacity building has been, I can say, as the main strategy that the program has used to make sure that the communities are able to participate in program activities. Chiefs and village heads have actually helped a lot in the implementation of the project, because initially when we were demarcating forest management blocks in the forest reserves and the forest areas that are working in, the divisions were made on traditional boundaries at group village demand level. So this helped in giving them more sense of responsibility in terms of how the forest resources are locally used or accessed in the forest reserves. So we've noticed that with that increased sense of responsibility that the department has given to them, they have been in the forefront in working with us to make sure that the program is implemented well in the areas that we're working in.
The head of EU delegation to Malawi, Ambassador Alexander Baum, says he's happy with the achievements the program has made in reducing poverty and protecting the forests.
Malawi has lost a significant part of its forest cover during the 1970s, 80s, 90s, and the loss of forest cover is continuing. Globally, the contribution of deforestation is making up about 20% of the contribution to the emission of carbons. So translating this into the Malawi context, we believe that there is a need to, first of all, to stop deforestation, but closely linked into this is the sustainable use of the forest resources, because forest resources are important, for the livelihoods of Malawians. But at the current rate, we will just basically completely see a destruction of the forest cover, and thereby not only a massive contribution to sort of the global carbon emissions, but also an negative impact on the poverty of the population, because energy resources will go down, the soil fertility will go down, and particularly water resources will be either depleted or will be sort of not replenished. So it's a very complex topic, and I think as European Union we believe that actions at global level, where there's a lot of talk, has to be translated into concrete actions in the countries.
The program supports the implementation of the National Forestry Policy and the Forestry Act by supporting the strategies and actions that are highlighted in the National Forestry Program, NFP. Co-management is a strategy the Department of Forestry uses as a solution to deforestation and illegal use of forests. Co-management of forests improves forests, increases values, and changes lives. Using co-management, fewer wood problems that have hit women and children hard in Malawi will be history.